what's up, y'all? My name is Jess. Me and this bald-haired man who is drinking his coffee right now, his name is Ron, and we are the co-hosts and the co-creators of a podcast called Trap Therapy. We decided that we wanted to make Trap Therapy last year because, people are starting to talk about therapy more, specifically Black people, but just because we're talking about it, that doesn't mean that we're actually doing it. So we're trying to make a podcast that's relatable, not only relatable, but also educational at the same time so that people are able to gain some tools around mental wellness, gain some education around mental health, and actually implement it into their life. Therapy can sometimes be a very intimidating thing once you first start because you don't really know what you get into. And with our podcast, Trap Therapy, we wanted to make it known this therapy is really just like a conversation and a dialogue between two people that happen. And it just so happens that the person that you're talking to is an expertise in how your mind works and emotions and feelings. And they really just help you to organize those thoughts and become a better person. It's not as scary and as intimidating as, society can make it out to be. So yeah, that's just kind of what Trap Therapy is all about. Before we get started, me and Raleigh are going to tell you our credentials. So y'all know y'all ain't talking to people who really don't know what they are talking about.
Ain't no middle of the mall people. We ain't no middle
of the mall people, okay? So yeah, I have been counseling for about 6 years roughly. I'm currently a school counselor, but I started in substance abuse counseling, and then I moved on to family therapy. I have my master's in I have my bachelor's in psychology, my master's in professional counseling. And I'm currently working on my doctorate in community counseling with a concentration in marriage and family therapy. Ra.
So my name is Raleigh. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I'm currently based in Texas, but I am licensed as well in Florida and North Carolina. Currently, I do outpatient, but I have extensively done mobile crisis, inpatient, family-based therapy, so a bunch of different types of therapeutic interventions that I've been familiar with. And so just to kind of piggyback off what Jess was saying, part of the trap part of it is we want to make this fun. We wanted to show that you can be a therapist, but you can still have a life afterwards. We're therapists, but we listen to trap music and we love it. And we break down lyrics that can relate to you in different places. So part of this to keep this interactive and everything was to make sure that we are keeping you involved. So the first thing I want to ask now that the chat is available is, what are some things that you guys have been struggling with, let's say, over the past 3 years? Regarding, just coming together, being social, and, things that have going on. So just while you guys are doing that, me and Jessica are going to kind of talk about how we even realized better together was so important, because even when Jess presented the idea of the podcast was very much coming from a place of, I can do this by myself, but this may not be as interesting. I may not be able to have as much dialogue. And, we all got to talk about the panoramic at some point, the Pandora box. But, once that whole thing started, we even within our friendship circle and within our group setting, we made sure that we were still being social, even though we could not physically be present. So we had video game nights. We watched movies together. It's socially, we did a lot of things that we focused more on what we were able to do versus what we were not able to do. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've found that people struggle with is well, I can't do this no more. I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, what can you do? Because focusing on what you can't do is not necessarily going to get you anywhere. It's kind of the time to figure out what is still available. What are some of the resources that you have going on? So I'm looking at the comments now, which is great. One of the things that I see coming up is imposter syndrome, savior complex, academia procrastination, toxicity, holding things in. So these are wonderful topics, and I definitely wanted to open the floor so that we can touch on some of these things. So procrastination and consistency, I'll listen. Oh, okay. Planning, I feel and that is along with just as a coping skill, a tool, planning is the key thing that I have found to be the most specific thing. And when I'm working with clients, when I say planning, I don't mean giving yourself a closed window. So don't say, I'm gonna do it next week. Baby, next week is way too long. That's way too broad, because Monday will come and you go be I got Tuesday, and when it's always going to be a reason. There's always going to be something that comes up. So it's getting very specific of, I'm doing this Monday at 5 o'clock. If Monday at 5 o'clock doesn't work, if something comes up, if a backup plan doesn't work, keeping yourself accountable to that way. But if you give yourself too broad objectives of saying, oh, I got 6 months to do it, that's a long time, baby. What you doing this week? And always kind of going back and doing those things. So like, what do you think about those, Justin? You can see the comments.
Yeah, planning, honestly, it has to be short term, right? We're living in our daily lives can be chaotic. You guys are in college or you're working adults. Things can change from time to time. Short term planning is where you're able to actually decrease your actual procrastination. So if I say, look, at 11 o'clock, I'm getting up, I'm cleaning my house, I'm going to the gym. It's like, boom. Then once you actually accomplish that goal, you gain a little bit more confidence because it's kind of like, I did it when I said I was supposed to do it, which also helps to decrease your procrastination. Procrastination is just all in your mind. Honestly, it's really how your anxiety is manifested, right? Most of the time we procrastinate with things because we think it's like way too much of a task to do, or it's way too heavy of a burden, or maybe we're like fearful or dreadful of actually completing it because we can't think that we're going to hold up to it or we're not going to do it right. So really it's just cutting down the anxiety in your head and also saying like, I can actually do this. I'm gonna just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and part of it can also be having an accountability partner, finding someone that you know is gonna, hold you. I feel like I'm a wonderful accountability partner. I'm gonna let you know, like Jess. Now you need to order them contacts. Now your eyes is messed up. They even drying out. When you gonna do this? When you gonna do that? And it's not to to have that support. Just know like, oh, I may need that somebody to be there. I may need that accountability. And I think that is part of the better together. Is that kind of like, we can't do it out here alone. I think everybody is like, I'm gonna get it out the mud on my own. Baby, you don't got to. It's all right. You can ask for help. It's okay. Like, there's the things that happen. And I think you can make big plans and have these long-term goals, but also always understanding you're not going to get there unless you're doing those small things to get there. And then,
right.
But I think as long as you're making some progress and you're doing the small things, if something comes up and you have to shift your narrative, if you have to change the dynamic, if you have to alternate a plan, it doesn't feel as bad because you're like, oh, this is a small bump in the road, a change that I've had to make, but I'm still on the same path versus, looking at the situation as, oh, I haven't done, this is all, and I think a lot of times people can like overgeneralize. You make one mistake, you miss a day where you didn't go to the gym, you exercise, and now it's just like all gone. It's just kind of going back and re-strategizing. It's like, you know what, yesterday this happened, so now knowing what I have now, what do I need to do next to kind of keep going onto that path and getting that thing completed?
Yeah. So in the chat it says, isn't procrastination a result of perfectionism? Not always. Not always. You don't have to be a perfectionist to be able to have like procrastination manifested into your life. With perfectionism, I think sometimes we get confused on what actually perfectionism is. Perfectionism is a thing where you have an all or nothing attitude about literally everything. There is no in between. It is always black and white. If you don't do one task, like in a day, let's say you did everything in that you were supposed to do and plan during a day, and then one thing failed, like maybe going to the grocery store or planning out your next day. If you're a perfectionist, you would say to yourself, my whole day was an absolute failure because you didn't do that one specific thing. So sometimes procrastination is not always a result of perfectionism.
No, absolutely. And I think, so another thing is saying that I definitely think procrastination is anxiety, because I think the more you procrastinate, it's kind of like, I don't really have to deal with the possible result that I don't want. That basically it's like, it's almost like, I don't like how I feel procrastinating, but I'm almost comfortable with it because I'm used to it. So I'm used to feeling like this. It doesn't feel great, but I'm used to it. But that's better than, oh, if I actually went out and done some of these things, what would actually happen? Because that's an unknown that I've never experienced. So I think a lot of people set up these dynamics and set up distractions and kind of make themselves distracted. So it's like, oh, I got distracted, but a lot of people will seek out distractions in order to avoid certain things, to not have to cross those barriers. So I think those are a lot of things, and I think that just kind of transitions. That could be in work, school, relationships. It's a way to say like, I'm going to put that off because I don't want to face what the possible outcome is. But I think that's a lot of times is like, oh, you're so focused on what the negative outcomes are. It's like, oh, it could actually work out for you, but
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety doesn't make you think that. For every outcome, I want to say most people I know, you can think of 10 negative outcomes right now. But if I ask you to say, like, give me 5 of them, it might take
You wouldn't.
It might take you 20 minutes to actually do that. But the negatives, oh baby.
You can spew them out.
Yeah, like but that's how your mind is so used to already focusing on the negative that it actually takes more work
to make a positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know some of the world does not believe in science. I know that, but it's scientifically proven that you have to have 5 positive thoughts for every 1 negative thought, right? Because we can seek out the negative easily. If you be like, what was bad about your day yesterday? Y'all could go on and on and on. But if I'm like, okay, tell me like 6 good things that happened to you yesterday, you could be looking at me like, I just told you my day was bad, you know? So okay, we're going to get into the next segment because we could really stay on procrastination for like 40 minutes, honestly. But so when we talk about struggling can look different on everybody, right? Just because I'm struggling in a certain way and Rollis is not struggling the same way that I am, that doesn't mean that he's not also carrying a heavy burden also, right? So in the chat right now, I'm going to go down the list of maybe how people may be struggling. If you relate, you could be like, yep, that's me. I relate. Or I got somebody who does that, even though that somebody is you. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
There's definitely going to be some asking for friends in there. Yeah.
I'm just asking for a friend. Don't we know the friend is you? The friend is you. We're going to tell you anyways.
Right.
We're going to tell you anyways. All right. So when it comes to struggling, sometimes struggling was different. Like I said, you might be struggling with relationships, friends, and partners. And that's not saying that the relationship is going bad, but maybe you're not communicating properly, or maybe you're not loving that person as full to your fullest potential as you can, right? Sometimes maybe it's like a strange relationship now. Maybe you're becoming distracted and you're not able to give 100%. So that's how we can struggle. Being anxious about the future, right? So that's being like, I don't know if I'm past this test tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to get this promotion. Like your negative self-talk really takes over more than it usually should. That's how you know that you're struggling. Okay. Finding it hard to concentrate. Listen, for me in the panoramic, I was just like, I can't concentrate on anything. I don't even know what's going on. I literally have no clue what is going on. And that's how I knew to myself that like, I'm struggling because I can't even get past reading this first page of this research study. I've read this research study literally 8 times and I still have no clue what is going on in this paper, right? That's how I knew I was struggling. Lack of energy. When we talk about struggling, sometimes our symptoms can be like, they can be physical symptoms, right? So maybe you may sleep a whole lot more. Or maybe you might sleep a whole lot less. Maybe you have frequent headaches. Maybe now you're getting stomach pains. Maybe now you're actually getting more sick despite of Omicron and the COVID variant. Maybe you're getting more sick than you actually did get sick in the past, you know? So I think that's important too. I think sometimes we think that mental health is just one entire thing, but your mental health can actually affect your whole entire body. Right. Being in a Panasonic is ghetto. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it is. Okay. It's not cute. Another way of maybe you're struggling is maybe you're not enjoying or wanting to do the things that you used to do before in the past that actually like brought you happiness. You know, maybe you like to kick it with your friends, or maybe you like to go to museums or the local bar or whatever the case might be. Maybe it's just like, yeah, I don't feel it. I actually don't want to do that anymore. It's like, but you literally love to do this all the time. That's how we know, I'm struggling a little bit more than what I'm supposed to be struggling with. We already talked about feeling restless and agitated, but also agitation is like, me and Ralph talk about this a lot on track therapy.
Absolutely.
Agitation is a thing where you think maybe you're just annoyed with the day-to-day life or just little things annoy you, but it's like, I don't understand why you're so agitated about being in traffic and you know there's traffic literally every single day when you get home. Like, calm down.
Like everything is a surprise. Like, oh, I don't know why these people out here. Like you out here though, so why are you surprised about everybody else doing
Everything is surprise. You know, every week you have a meeting at 2:00 on Wednesday and you aggravated. I don't know why. I know, you already know what's supposed to be happening, right? I'm not surprised. I'm just mad. Exactly.
We see each other. I understand. So I think the biggest thing that that I've seen, like a lot of you guys feel attacked here. This is perfect because that's exactly how we want you to feel. Like every week in trap therapy is if you don't feel attacked, basically we haven't done our job. And so part of it, so some of the things that I'm going to come to is some coping do's and don'ts. I'm gonna start with the do's first. We're gonna come in nice first, and then we're gonna talk about the don'ts. But so part of the thing is like Trap Therapy. It's a free podcast that Jess and I do. A lot of these topics, as far as imposter syndrome, relationships, friendships, are a lot of things that we talk about. We've been recording since, I want to say, since the summer. So there's about 10 episodes. So feel free to check in and a lot of episodes. Utilizing healthy social support. So that is going to people that you know you can depend on. So if there are people in your life who have never supported you emotionally or in a certain way, baby, we're not going to go to them because they have never people. So reaching out to say, hey, I really could use somebody to talk to, but they've never been that person. We're not going to continue to try to force that because that may not give you what you're looking for. And I think part of that is taking out time and mindfulness and saying, if I needed help to deal with financial stress that I'm worried about, who is the best person I go to? Who's going to give me the best advice? If I need help talking about my relationship, is talking to my friend who don't like my boyfriend or girlfriend, is that the person I probably want to listen to?
No,
probably not. Let me readjust. That may not be the person to talk to. And I think if I'm having a life transition issue, is having someone who I know is going to take my side regardless. Is that the best person for me to reach out to? And I think a lot of times, if we do the homework and really think about some of these relationships, we'll realize like, yeah, I need support, but there are certain people who are supportive in certain ways, and that's okay. But I think that's part of it, acknowledging where people are. And then during this time, I've learned that a lot of people are able to like work on your professional development, set goals for yourself. There's so much resources now because everything is virtual. There are so many opportunities to do things that we have never been able to do before. Like even therapy is even virtual now, which is not something that I would have ever thought would have been possible. So these are like all tools that you can use, exercise, journaling, prioritizing your needs, anything like that you feel like. And I feel like this is a great time of discovery to figure out like, you know what, now I have more time right now. I have time where I'm home and there's a lot of things that I may have never had time to do now I'm like, oh, I actually have time to explore this. I have time to explore, I don't know, start beat making, start a podcast, start different things like this. There's a lot of time to do things like that. So along with coping do's, there are some don'ts. And don'ts can be basically anything a lot of things are good in moderation. But baby, if you're doing it too much, it could be a problem. So you going out, ain't nothing wrong with going out, ain't going out, have a good time. Baby, if you out every night, and you work in the morning, that you might want to, you might want to
slow down.
You might want to take a break. Everybody like to eat. I love to go out to eat. If you're going out to eat too much and it's kind of interfering with your financial situation, it's kind of setting you back, then it's kind of recognizing like, oh, maybe I'm doing this too much. Maybe this is kind of working past the point of now it's creating additional issues for me. And I think so much of what people do is they do things and be like, oh, it feels good in the moment. But if it's going to create a longer or bigger term stressor, then it's actually not providing you with the support that you need. And that can look like anything. So if you like to go out and get lit with your friends, hey, I ain't gonna judge you, but hey, as long as the next day you're doing what you need to do. And so there are a lot of things like that I think that people get into in this situation. And I think that even sleep, regular things that are stuff that are essential is kind of, oh, is this still productive? Is this cutting into what I need to do to be a healthy functioning person? And I think taking time out to figuring out what your baseline is, what when you're functioning really well, when you're doing the best that you can, what does that look like? So for me, it may be, running 4 or 5 times a week. And then, taking time to realize like, you know what, I haven't ran in 4 weeks. I haven't ran in 3 weeks. That means something to me. That means I'm not functioning where I may be. Not to anybody else, that may be okay. But for me, that's like, oh, that's something that I know when I'm optimizing and I'm being the best version of myself. That's something that's consistent for me. And so I always know if I haven't ran all week, this is a problem. If I haven't,
right, because you know your baseline. I tell like all my clients, all my students that nobody is there. You are your own greatest expert. right? So literally, can't nobody tell you what your baseline, not even a therapist, not your mama, not your daddy, not your sister,
Right.
not your cousin. They do not know where your baseline is to be a fully functioning, healthy person. So kind of like Ross said, he knows that his baseline is he runs 4 times a week. Now me,
Right.
I'm not doing that. That's not my baseline. I'm not even running once a week. I'll go to the studio, I'll work out, but I'm not running 4 times a week. So my baseline looks different from his baseline, if that makes sense. But you got to figure out where that is for you. If you know that you have ordered DoorDash, and DoorDash, they be running it up because it's only $10 to eat, but then by the time it gets delivered to you, it's $35. So now y'all done dipped into your weekend funds. So now we
the promos will get you, because as soon as you're not wanting it, they'll be like, oh, we can give you a discount. Then you like, not today, say, and not today. Not today.
Not today, right? So maybe your baseline is maybe you order DoorDash once a week, but now you've ordered DoorDash 5 times this week and it's only been for 1 meal and you haven't had breakfast or lunch. It's like, my God, like, hey, I know I'm struggling here because something is not right. But yeah, you have to actually find coping skills and coping tools that work for you, because they also don't work the same on everybody.
Absolutely. And I think, and it's just a different recognition. I think even you can look at your environment. If you go home and realize, like, my house is very organized, I teach people a lot that your house is often a representation of how you're feeling internally. So if your house is just chaos right now, it's no wonder that you feel chaotic. It's no wonder that you feel unorganized, and that, it's very easy to be like, oh, I just start this way and I just run and do this and I just run and do this. Your house, whatever your house looks like right now, is more than likely, or your apartment, your room, whatever, is probably a representation of how you're feeling internally or where you are right now. So if right now it looks like chaos, you're
chaotic right now.
You function in chaos. And listen,
we're gonna need you to get it together. You're gonna get it together, but
and that's prioritizing. Like if you and if you're going out to eat, that's cool. But if you have a bunch of groceries in your house that are going bad, that you haven't used and stuff like that, I feel like I might have did something there. So I'm just saying that might be telling you something. Are you being the most mindful? Are you actually planning? Because are you being wasteful? It's not a judgment, but these are things that people do that they don't realize, that it's like, oh, you're setting up these dynamics that you don't even realize. Like you're setting up these additional stressors. There's a lot of things that feel great in the moment, but long term it's going to set you back. And then I think what happens is then you have regrets. Oh, I should have done this. And then I think that just kind of starts a cycle. Then you start beating yourself up. You make a plan, I'm going to do this. You get off tangent and you're like, damn, I could have been doing this for the last month and look at me. So I think it's just kind of recognizing that cycle and, like, at a certain point, just stopping and saying, hey, this would be great right now, but long term, that's not really going to get me closer towards what it is that I want to do.
We gotta break the cycle. And that also comes down to also what Raula said, is finding an accountability partner. If you have a friend who is like always organized, or they're doing the things that they need to do, you just need to be like, hey, can you stay on my ass? If you come in my apartment or my room in the next week and it still looks the same, tell me we're not going out to eat. Yeah. And I'll get it together. If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner who is like a really amazing supportive partner, you need to be like, hey, can you hold me accountable? Tell me you're not going to see me until I get myself together. You know what? Hey, that's good. I'll let you get your house in order.
Even a friend that comes over your house, like, oh, what is going on in here? Is this?
Ooh, a white refrigerator.
Living like this? It sounds judgmental, but hey, somebody needs to call you out. And I think that's just part of one of the things that we're very big on accountability, like self-accountability, everybody else having accountability for one another, because I think that's so important. Like, to recognize that I see somebody struggling. And I think that's very consistent with knowing that, oh, just because I see she's working every day, like she's getting everything done, but I'm like, oh, she's just moody every day. Like she's just not she doesn't seem like herself. It's okay to be like, hey, I know you're getting all this stuff done, but you just don't seem like yourself. You don't seem like the best version of yourself. You don't seem to have the same consistency that I've recognized. And I think it's okay to say that, because I think so many people don't realize that about themselves until somebody says it. Because you get to a place of functioning in this dysfunction that until somebody else says to you, oh, this looks very dysfunctional, then you say like, oh, I may not have recognized that until somebody pointed out for me, because I've just been living in this space for so long that this has become my norm, and I have not thought anything was wrong with it.
Yeah. So we are going to open up the floor now for a couple of questions. A couple now. Now don't go crazy. We probably gonna do maybe answer about 3 questions, maybe 4 if it's short answer questions. But if you guys have a question, go ahead and drop it into the chat and we will do our best to answer it. So yeah, if y'all have any. If you don't, that's fine. Y'all don't have to ask. There's nothing.
It's fine. Well, yeah, because we can ramble forever. Like, you know, it's so funny that I think like how we started off like, oh, we're gonna talk for half an hour on our show. Baby,
Trap therapist. So what are you gonna say at my funeral now that you killed me? We are going to say she was an amazing.
I feel like a better question for us should be, okay, now that you have all this information, what are you gonna do with what we told you? When are you gonna start? You gonna start today? You go put it off to tomorrow? I know people like, I'm gonna start Monday because it's the first day of the week. You ain't doing nothing today? What, like, come on, like, let's get this on the books.
Do something that you know is actually tangible that you can get done today. Do it today. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your anxiety will tell you that it takes, have you ever had like a project or something due and you like, oh, this is gonna take forever. I know it's gonna take all day, and you actually do it, it only takes 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's like,
that was
a long time ago.
The one question I see is, what is one piece of advice you can give to us college students going into the spring semester in regards to staying on top of our work, but also our mental health? Okay, I think that's a great question. So going for the fall semester to the spring semester. So I think one thing that I would say is go back, when you look back at the fall semester, you should have identified what maybe worked for you this semester, what did not work for you. So kind of outlining, okay, this semester, academically, financially, study-wise, prioritizing like what like worked for me. Did it work better for me to go to the library to get stuff done? Was I actually able to get ready to do stuff in my room? Like, so I was very much in college. I could not get work done in my room. I was too easily distracted. I had to go to the library. So I'm like, if I don't go to the library, baby, nothing is going to get done. So that was one thing that I think is going to be important to kind of figure out what were some of the strengths and what were some of the areas of concern that maybe worked for you as far as like prioritizing needs. And I would say mental health wise, I think that, so one thing I would say, like, I think Jessica, you were talking about this, basically like a lot of schools have school counselors. I want to say all schools have school counselors. So like actually find out, like, because that might be something in the realm of that. Figuring out your baseline, figuring out when I'm functioning well, what does my fitness look like? What do my eating habits look like? What does my sleep look like? What do my studying habits look like? Creating that baseline. And then there are self-care inventories that I have some of my clients do every month that actually like, am I eating poorly? Well, am I eating, every day? Am I sleeping well? Am I doing this? And it focuses on different areas, and you can look at it every month and do your scores and know like, oh, my scores went down this month, so I stopped doing this as much. Is this something that I need to be focused on? Oh, my spirituality, I'm not doing as much artistically. I'm not creating. I'm not, taking walks as much anymore. Is that something I need to focus on? Because I think that's the biggest part of is the recognition of knowing. So I think something like that can help you check in with yourself each month to know, okay, from this month to this month, this changed. And that may be something I need to give more attention to or less attention to, and then kind of rolling with that as time goes on.
Yeah, nice. That was a solid answer. Next question is anxiety. I was told is living in the future that isn't here yet. That is very true. What advice do you have in the respect to the pandemic to people who are struggling with not knowing what the future will look like? I think that all comes down to sometimes we get anxious because the future, we don't have any control over that, right? So it's not the fear of what's not really going to happen. It's really the lack of control, which is the actual fear. So then we have to hone in on what are the things in our environment that we actually can control in the moment, right? I can control what I eat. I can control the people that I have relationships with. I can sometimes control my environment if it's kind of like a physical space where I know I can leave or I know it's toxic to me. So it's really honing in on what exactly can you have control over in the moment? We can't always control the behaviors of other people, but what we can control is how we react to other people's behaviors. We can control our choices that we make, whether you decide to go on a walk today, whether you decide to go shopping and spend all your money, whether you decide to go to the club 4 nights in a row, whether you decide to actually stay at home and get some sleep. Those are the things that we can actually control. So I think those are the things that you actually have to really digest and really dig in on so you don't become so anxious, because really anxiety is really all about thinking about the future that is not even here yet. Girl, tomorrow is literally not even here. Let's worry about today. Let's figure out what we can get done today. Let's figure out the things that bring us enjoyment in the actual moment, because listen, the world is on fire right now. So we can't worry about everything else that's going on. We have to worry about what we have going on in our lives in the actual moment. And then once you do that, I think it's going to really decrease the anxiety that you have, because you're just not saying that it's selfish it's not selfish to worry about yourself, but you're worrying about yourself. You're worrying about what you can control. And that's really it.
So what Jess wanted to do, now our time is almost up. We definitely wanted to end our episode, in this segment, the same way we kind of do our regular episodes, which is our trap song of the week. And it's just a song that is motivational for whatever reason, or we just like, or we just bumping. So my trap song of the week is Get Paid by Young Dolph. Just because I'm a Young Dolph stan. And I'm just like, it's just very motivational. It's like, whatever, get paid and, do what you got to do and get out here. And so my trap song of the week that I'm going to be blasting, and I hope y'all bumping, is Get Paid by Young Dolph. What's yours, Jess?
Period. My trap song of the week is Never Ever by Trillville, because sometimes you gotta let these people know, baby, you ain't gonna never be on my level. And never. That's just, Never. It is what it is. You can try, but can't nobody be like me. Before we sign off, we are going to put some amazing resources in the chat that you guys can go to. NAMI is a National Alliance on Mental Illness. It has an amazing, amazing interface that basically tells you everything that you need, all the information. Psychology Today is the second one. Psychology Today basically works like a Google search engine, right? You literally type in what exactly you want in a therapist, whether you want it to be Black, brown, white, part of the LGBTQIA community, what part of the country they're living in, what city, and it literally brings you up a whole entire list of therapists in your area. You can also hone it down to if they're able to take insurance or if it's self-pay. The third one is the Suicide Prevention Hotline. You don't have to use it, even if you're the person who is suicidal. If you know somebody who is dealing with suicidal ideation and you're trying to help them in the moment, that is an amazing resource that you can call. And the last one is mentalhealth.gov. I know there are some people who may be a part of the military or who have, or who are a veteran. You can get a whole lot of help from there. And then the fourth one is if you are working a job, or even if you are in college, reach out to your HR, because there might be like an EAP type of program where you have so many built-in free sessions. If you are at a college, all colleges have counseling centers. The counseling sessions are built into your tuition. So you get free therapy on campus if you already do not know that. So some of y'all have been bamboozled. You could see somebody today.
And be cool.
Yes. And that is it. Thank you guys so much for trapping out with us. It was amazing.
Fun.